In today's video, I want to go over 6 things I've learned as a founder and a manager at my digital marketing company. Running it for the last 4 years, and people are complex. There's a lot of intricacies when it comes to managing people, reading, behavior, catching on to patterns, and so on and so forth. There's also a lot of fundamentals when it comes to being a good manager. So let's jump right into it. The first thing is following the 3C rule. Do not condemn, criticize, complain to an employee in a group setting. It makes them look kind of foolish. If you want to criticize and give constructive criticism to someone with a little bit of assertiveness, maybe they screwed up in a certain area, pull them aside, do it in a direct message, pull them on a one-on-one meeting via Zoom or whatever you use to talk with your team members. And as long as you're reassuring them afterwards that they're on the right direction, you believe in their work, and they're overall a great contributor to the company's success, then it comes off a lot differently. So what do we learn from this? Do not criticize in a group setting, pull them in a one-on-one environment, and then reassure them once you're done giving your criticism that they're great, reassure that their work is meaningful and working towards the mission and success of the company, and that they're very much needed in the workplace. Number 2 is actively listening and listening. And this is a personal mistake that I used to do a long time ago, was I would just listen. And I wouldn't really look for body language. I wouldn't really look for tonality. I wouldn't really read through the lens of my conversations with my direct reports. And that kind of led to things such as not reading between the lines and having complaints come afterwards. Sometimes employees are not always going to be 100% truthful. And you as a manager need that kind of psychology adaptability to understand, yes, someone is being truthful and honest. Yes, someone is unsure of what they're saying. And yes, someone is looking like they're, maybe lying or just not confident with what they're saying. You can catch on to body language such as, scratching your neck, looking down, looking aside, stuttering, right? If you really know and learn a lot about your direct reports, you could catch on to these things. And I think this would help a lot. So actively listening is just giving them your 100% focus and not thinking as they're speaking. It's not thinking about what you're going to say next. It's actually giving your 100% attention when they're speaking. And it's okay to pause afterwards, acknowledge what they said, and come up with a rational response. You don't need to be quick and nimble with your responses. Listen first, respond later. That's completely fine. On to number 3. This one kind of has 2 parts to it. And the first is understanding that women and men have different management styles, and you as a manager need to cater as such. Some of the things I see differently, and there's a caveat, this is not applicable 100% of the time. I'm talking very in general terms right now, but they do have different management styles. And the first one would be reassurance. From my experience, women need a little bit more reassurance. And for men, you can do it maybe a little bit less frequency, but the reassurance has a little bit more merit. Providing women in a workplace that, again, their work matters and that they're very important could really change the entire working relationship. So first and foremost, be honest about it, right? You don't want to reassure someone and say they're doing a fantastic job when they're bombing all their KPIs and OKRs. You want to be truthful. That's number 1. And number 2 is, increase the frequency with women in comparison to men. And maybe some men actually require a lot of reassurance. This is why we get a behavioral test sent to all of our employees. This is something that we actually incorporated recently. And I could understand, okay, employee A needs reassurance, they need acknowledgement, they need to be more in a group setting, work rather than working in a siloed environment. This kind of segues into the behavioral testing that we've been doing with our employees, is understanding the intricacies behind them, because sometimes, someone can't really explain what their traits are. So 2 parts to this is understanding and acknowledging the difference between men and women in the workplace is very important. And number 2, use a behavioral test. So we used a few in the past. We use Predictive Index right now. It gives us a lot of good insight as to how our employees should be communicated to, how easy they adapt in a workplace, and really their preferences in a work environment. Number 4, and this is probably the most challenging one, is leading by example. Look, being a manager, being a director, being in just a leadership position is supposed to be hard. It's not supposed to be easy. So what I mean by leading by example is actually stepping up to the plate and walking before talking. If something needs to get done, I'll give you guys an example. We implemented an OKR system, which is essentially objectives and key results every quarter. And before pointing fingers and saying, hey, listen, you're gonna do this objective, you're gonna do this objective, I went through 2 books. I've written about 10 pages of SOPs. I've implemented it in 1 quarter for me and my partner. And then I said, hey guys, this is what I've learned. This is what we also learned from our trial in Q1 of 2023. I'd like to present this as an implementable system in Q2 of 2023. Here are my best learnings. Here's what I learned, so on and so forth. So I led by example. I didn't point fingers. I didn't get anyone to read books and find resources for me in this case, because I know the significance it has for the company. So leading by example is stepping up to the plate and showing to your team that you're able to do the grunt work before anyone else. Once your employees catch on and see this recurring pattern come from you, they're gonna start adapting and start taking initiative before you, which, listen, I have no complaints. Number 5 is embody your core values first. One thing I learned in a mastermind that I attended about 3.5 months ago was a common issue is founders just reiterating core values and saying, oh guys, can you read our core values? They would send a document in the group chat and say, we'd love to see you guys embody this and see how you could put some of the core values into action. And I don't think it carries enough merit, to be honest, when you just send over a document of your core values and say, hey, listen, this is something I want you guys to incorporate today. I think doing it a little bit differently, and I'll provide you 2 different ways, could come off a little bit more professional. So the first one is actually doing it. So if you have a core value of integrity, then show that you're integral with your work. Show signs of integrity through how you deliver work, communicate with clients, complete projects, so on and so forth. Number 2, have a reoccurring pattern or maybe even a group channel dedicated to your employees embodying the core values. So one of our core values is being self-directed. And we had an issue with a client where there was a lot of problems with their post-lead process and their targeting, and usually I would have to jump in, client success would have to jump in, but the marketer on this account literally just took all the initiative in the world. And I replied and I said, listen, you just embodied, core value number 1. That's excellent. And I think it was a wonderful setting. Instead of just kind of, pointing fingers and saying, can you embody it? Do it first. And when you catch your employees doing it, acknowledge them and praise them for doing so. Number 6 is random but authentic signs of appreciation. So once in a while, go to your employees. You could do this in a group setting in comparison to my first one where condemning should be done personal. To show appreciation, I think it's better to do it in a group setting so other people could see and acknowledge it. Maybe set yourself a reminder, because sometimes I used to forget and I'm like, wow, I did not show anyone appreciation or how much I care for their work or their progression in the last 2 weeks. So I set myself subtle reminders. Find somebody who's done really well or excelled in a certain area, and I am just very vocal about it now. So if someone does well, they complete a project on time, or they embody one of our core values, I'm not afraid to show them my appreciation. And I've seen employees really, their eyes light up when they're acknowledged, and even other employees start to acknowledge it. It really sets the bar for the culture and the overall environment of the company. So these are 6 things I've learned as a manager and a founder of a digital marketing company in the last 4 years. If you guys like more content from a managerial standpoint, let me know in the comments below. But as always, have a wonderful day, and we'll see you guys soon.